Day94-achancetoescapemurdoch'sembrace tonight and the wedding of news internet with the cover the time to bless by the other countries. One part away. It was 3 years away. It was a few years away. Promoter was closer to the action they became and built the slow quarter round. The Prime Minister arrived late with all eyes turning to me as he walked down to the lake. The reception, I had a brief conversation with Mr. Cameron. I said I hoped he would not be in the coming election, but that if we did and if we wanted to act in provocative and stand out in the press, I would support him. For some time, the journalist in me had known that the relationship between politics and the media was not serving the public, but it was my first-hand experience of destabilizing culture abuse, negativity, that convinced me Prince Press and 24-hour news were making more difficult for the leader to govern. It's got worse, hasn't it? He said. I implied that he would be a much stronger prime minister were he to take off not feeling he owed anything to the big media groups. At that point, Mr. Murdoch joined us. We returned to subject. Perhaps we should not have done so. That we did, however, illustrated something of the dishonesty at the heart of our essentially political and commercial relationship. It is not easy what to do what that Miliband Labour leader did last week, make himself an enemy of some of the media's most powerful forces. He was right that Labour got too close to News International, but he was also right that given the media bias against it, why we knew why we tried to level the playing field. My own defense, and as my diary shows, argued for some years with Tony Blair that we need to act on the culture of media. At one point, he ticked me off, asking that I not make views obvious in front of Mr. Murdoch, Don James and Lassington, then chief executive of News International. Ultimately, Mr. Blair thought the press had become important, but that given our other priority, people would not understand our taking them on. He also thought it would look like revenge for the fact they had turned against it. And there were political considerations too. Trying to govern an election is hard enough without the press being against you. Except that for all of us, at times media support was something we courted at the expense of position or principle media issues. But that truth has now been sprung. The latest revelation had forced the police, News International, and the government to act. The police will now be more vigorous. News International will continue with their kamikaze crisis management, which one day will be studied as a textbook case of how not to do it. But the most important development are the Prime Minister during inquiries into press practices and the new system of regulation. These mean we now have once-in-a-generation opportunity for a new settlement between politics, the media, and the public. Nobody can argue that we have the press we deserve. Pressured by technological change, a dominant strain of Britain's media has gone into a spiral of decline, in which this scandal is only the most dramatic development. Mr. Cameron did not look comfortable announcing the reviews. He has personal relationship at stake in giving a higher Andy Carson as his communications director. His judgment is true. Already the backlash from part of the press has begun. I seek to maintain that anything but two slopes of regulation is an assault on a free press. But Mr. Cameron must stand back from all that and ask himself what is the right thing to do. To some of it last Friday, the judicial inquiry should be far-reaching. The news of the war is far from alone the usual dubious and illegal practices. As widely ignored report from the Information Commission have shown, part of Britain's media reminds me of the trade union before Mrs. Thatcher. They feel untouchable. As I say above, Labour could and should have done more to deal with the therapist, but just as the NPC expenses scandal emerged from the failure of Mrs. Thatcher's government to tackle MP salaries, so the system by which it showered honors and editors and honors, a practice which you put an end with a rule that no serving editor could be honored, means you to have something to answer for. Whatever the past, it is Mr. Cameron who must lead the country to a better place. Mr. Miliband has shown himself capable of playing a good and principled part, and so should the public. Ultimately, political debate will only improve if the public wanted to. If they channel the anger, it is an event into an assessment of a competitive debate, but they really want to live on a diet of celebrity, trivia, and negativity and abuse to confront, we'll own this together.